Welcome to the Appalachian Heritage Woodshop, woodworking with an Appalachian flair.
Okay, now that you've had your logs milled into boards, now you need to pay attention to the drying process of those boards. If you purchase a board from a retail facility, you have no idea what drying process was used. You don't know if it was air dried and then kiln dried. You don't know if it was taken from the mill directly into the kiln and kiln dried. You don't know the rate that it was dried at. You don't know the target rate that it was dried to. And you don't know the MCG, or moisture content gradient. That is the difference between the core of the board and the surface of the board. If the MCG exceeds 2% moisture content, then you're going to have trouble with that board when you go to cut it. So when you buy a board from a retail facility, you can take a meter and you can check the moisture content, which is most probes on the meters are only about 3/16 to 1/4 of an inch deep. So you're really only checking just below the surface. So you really don't know that much about the drying process of that wood. So since the log was yours and you had it milled into boards, the boards are yours. Now it is up to you to control the drying process, which is the last critical step in the log processing system. Now, you can air dry wood. It's very easy to do. There's a lot of information available. There's a whole chapter in the U.S. Forestry Kiln Operator's Manual on air drying. Now, when you air dry, you can have it rigged in such a way that it dries at a slow rate. And that's to your advantage. If you place it where the sun shines on it, or you place it where you have a direct wind blowing on it, then it's going to dry too fast. If you have it placed where the wind blows on the end grain and not the long grain, you're going to increase the checking on the ends. So you can control the air drying process so that it dries at a slower rate so that you minimize the opportunity for defects. Now, depending on what you're going to do with that wood, you may need to have it kiln dried after it's air dried. I recommend you go to the U.S. Forestry Service Kiln Operator's Manual, and it will tell you the recommended moisture content for the wood for your geographic area, depending upon how you're going to use that wood, whether it be indoors or outdoors, commercial building or residential building. There's different recommended moisture contents for how it's going to be used, and you need to know that. So, when it is kiln dried, you should be able to request what is the drying rate by that kiln. If they can't show you the rate that that was dried, then you don't know whether it was dried too fast or not. If you have your own kiln, then you can actually dry at a slower rate than what the U.S. Forestry Service recommends, and that greatly minimizes the defects as well as the moisture content gradient. So when it comes to drying the wood, you need to know air drying, kiln drying, you need to know the drying rate, you need to know the benefits and what suits your business the best. You also need to know, if it was dried, you need to know what their target moisture content was and whether they conditioned that wood at the end of the drying cycle. Again, that helps eliminate some of the tension or the moisture content gradient in the boards. So the drying process is the last process that you have control over, because you own the log, you own the boards. You should be able to have the service, the drying process service, available to you at the rate that you want that best dictates your needs for your woodworking business. So this whole process, from the log to the board ready to be utilized in your shop, takes knowledge, skill, and a little bit of forethought on your part. You need to be able to think what is best for you and how to get that best for your business without spending more than what is necessary. So this whole process, by controlling it, you should be able to lower the cost of your raw material. You should be able to get a better yield out of the log. You should be able to get a better quality cut out of the log. Again, that is for your woodworking business, not somebody else's, but yours. And you should be able to get what you need and not a lot of stuff that you don't need. So those 4 factors alone are a good reason for you to try to obtain logs outside of the log processing system and control the process all the way through to the final board that comes into your shop to build a quality piece of furniture or woodworking item that you specialize in. This is Jerill Vance with the Appalachian Heritage Woodshop reminding you, be proud of your Appalachian heritage.